Hello, and welcome to the second ever Good Luck Go Fast podcast.
Woo! Oh yeah!
Oh, yeah, boy. I am Stormcrow56K, and I just have to say that having a good podcast sponsor in this day and age is so crucial. That's why we are proud to announce a bigger, better, and lower calorie powdered beverage sponsor, Crystal Light.
That's right.
With only 5 calories per serving, Crystal Light allows you to become the God gamer that you deserve to be. And with me tonight, as always, is my trusty co host, the striped polecat autocrat, the mountain king of Sting, and the most recent member of the Chippendale Sub 10 Club, Zorilla33. Give it up.
33. Hey, thank you, Stormy. How are you doing tonight? What's new with you, Stormy?
Hey, Mr. Z. Not too much, man. Been doing wrist-still healing, but
Yeah.
I am making progress. So I've actually been able to play some Turts, some TMNT arcade. So been improving. I got the 1cc's and on each turtle. Got a deathless run the other day, and have lowered
Right.
the 80% and 1cc record quite a bit. So very happy with that. How about
Hey, it
you?
seems like you're taking that game apart. I mean, just in all the categories, feels like you're just killing that game.
I appreciate that. I sure am trying, and I love it. It's serious. It's so addicting. Like I've never been as addicted to a run as I have with this.
Yeah.
So, which is terrible considering
Yeah.
my wrist ailment.
Right.
But yeah. What about you? What's new with you?
Well, yeah. Since we last spoke, I did get the sub 10 in Chippendale. Felt really good. That was
Woo woo.
fun. And then we did this 2 week challenge on Mario 1 that just ended last night, trying to get the sub 5 in 2 weeks, which obviously was a pretty tough ask, and I did not make it. But I do feel like it was a lot of fun. I got up to speed pretty fast on the run, ended up with a 5:28, and I'm definitely gonna keep grinding the game because I'm enjoying it a lot. So
Yeah.
that's what I've
Awesome.
been doing.
Awesome. Yeah, it was a lot of fun watching you, and you had your 300 follower celebration as part of it last night. You streamed for what, 11 hours?
Yeah, that was like my previous record was something like 3.5. So 11 was pretty tough. I was amazed by people who do these marathon runs. It's just I can't believe it because I was ready to just die at the end of it. 11 hours.
Yeah, as I was telling you, I think my max is like 4, maybe 4.5 hours or something. So, quite impressed. Alrighty, well, so enough about us, but let's go ahead and jump into the news. I mean, let's not beat around the bush. There's no easy way to say this,
So
but
it's what everyone's thinking.
yeah, I mean, you
Everyone's
saw
everyone's thinking about,
the Crystal Light. Um,
right?
Tang fucked us. I don't know how else to say it. So
Yeah,
they donated $600,000 to us,
right.
and then they turn around and charge it back.
Hmm.
We don't hear from them for weeks. They abuse lots of our friends. They tartner and untartner people. They made
All the
Tiago
time.
a turbo tartner, which we still don't know
Yeah,
what the hell that is.
right.
Um,
And they're popping into chats and saying, "Do you want to be famous? Click here with the Tang, and maybe you'll pay us a little bit. We can make you partner." I mean, it's pretty slimy.
yeah, yeah, and everybody like I've been selling followers for months. I have the
Sure,
best prices on followers, and they just
sure,
undercut me. So,
yeah,
but
that's not cool,
water under the bridge.
right?
Once again, if you want to stay active, stick with a low cal bev choice and drink Crystal Light.
That's right.
And then of course we want to get this, this thing. I'll let you. This happened on your channel, so
Sure,
you go ahead. Of course I'm involved,
that's
but
right. Yeah, this is something that I feel like doesn't even need or deserve any attention because clearly this is a nothing. hamburger, nothing cheeseburger, but essentially what it boils down to is if there was any raffle on my channel, Stormy won it fair and square. It's not even confirmed that there ever was a raffle, but he won it fair and square, not because we're podcast partners, not because of any status symbol. It just happened. And so I feel like that should put this whole episode to a close. I will thank everyone for not bringing that up again, especially Rayo and Amore.
Yeah, Amore's just been really going crazy with it. But yeah, I mean, like I there were 103, I think, entries. I did only have one raffle ticket.
Right.
But I mean, think about all the things that happen on a 1% basis every day. It's not that crazy. It's not that crazy.
It's not crazy at all.
But yeah, so just to summarize, no collusion, no quid
That's
pro
right.
quo, etc.
Right. That's right.
And that's it.
And that should put an end to Stormygate. I don't think we'll ever come across that again. So
Yeah. So, anyways, now video games.
quid pro raffles.
Nice. So AGDQ went down. What is that? About a month ago. Super awesome games done quick in Orlando. Had a lot of really good retro representation. What were some of your favorite runs?
I think this won't be too unique, but yep, that's the one. I mean, watching those two do the Sinister and I'm blanking on the other names.
Zallard.
Zallard, thank you. Watching those two do that blindfolded one controller 2-player run and do it so well too. Not just get through it, but just do it so solidly. I couldn't believe it. Enough that I was showing friends of mine that like have no interest in video games or speedrunning or anything.
Oh yeah, it's got huge appeal. Yeah, and just can you imagine the insane amount of pressure doing that on that stage? As they said, I think they got a huge PB on it too.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And they were like, they seemed so calm. They were almost swaggy at one point. And they're saying, do you want to do a punch and stuff like that? And it was just incredible. Yeah, Shar says that's the greatest run I've ever seen. I mean, it's hard to top a run like that. It really is.
Yeah, and two just great representatives for speed running, for NES runs, for retro.
Right.
Yeah, awesome stuff.
Yep.
So this picture makes me think too. This is just a random picture. That's a JSR. I think that might be Tecate on the left. But yeah, they did in the practice room. They did like a 12-person Home Alone simultaneous world record, which I thought was pretty funny. So
yeah.
Check that out if you're not familiar. Get yourself a world record if you want to join in on the fun.
Right. It was a really cool event. I mean, Rayo, who's in chat right now, did Lolo, and that was really fun to watch. Rayo's a channel that I watch quite a bit, and I've seen him grind that game for a long time. So that was really cool too.
Rayo. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that one. Also, Mr. Dino's run of, I'm blanking on the name of it right now, Eagle Island. He actually got the world record live, which, he'd been working at for a while. Apparently some new strats came out, but that was really cool. A lot of energy on that. Who else? I don't know. There were so many great runs. Obviously, we can't talk about it forever.
It was really cool. Yep.
All right, up next we got Joey Baby 69. Took the Sonic 3 and Knuckles record on Genesis with the 30:22, nearly 2 minutes ahead of second place, and the sub 30 is suddenly possible. So congrats.
Yeah, so is that a run that they did at GDQ, or was it just started picking up steam after GDQ or something like that?
I don't think this one was at GDQ, but okay. I could be wrong. If anyone in chat knows, feel free to shout it out.
Yeah, if anyone knows in chat if that one was played at GDQ as well.
But yeah, I mean, I'm a big Genesis fan myself. You know, obviously we've talked. We're both more primarily NES runners, but it's cool to see people are pushing Genesis games as well.
Mhm. Yeah, it looks like there was a race at GDQ for that one,
Okay,
according to
him
4D.
him and
Yeah.
Zaxxon raced. Alrighty, if you want to go ahead and take the next one here.
Skunky, Skunky with the subscription to Good Luck Go Fast. Thank you, Skunky.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, she's Shardcore, another prominent figure in the NES speedrunning, and I guess Atari also now. I don't remember where we were last time on the world record tally, but she's well over 100 now, and the vast majority of them being sort of meme runs or games that maybe no one has bothered to route or anything, and she's taking those on. Uh, Obviously, really fun to see, really fun to watch. Yeah, do you want to give the blurb here?
Yeah, sure, and yeah, and I mean she has over 100 world records. I know you said you're not sure the exact number, and just to give so before I read the blurb, I mean her Nestruction Dwerby is what she's calling it. Is she's
Okay.
so it's exclusively NES games, but she's trying to get as many new records or ties as she can within the year by existing games, games that aren't optimized, or games that need leaderboards on speedrun.com. So doing it's a good thing for the NES community too, because it's variety is the spice of life. Even if you're just doing a single console, there's way too many games out there. Like today, she was doing a prototype Sim City on NES, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't know there ever was such a game. So I only knew of SimCity as being a PC game. So
Yeah, the prototype I think came out like a year ago or something. Apparently, it's got some banging music. Um,
oh, okay.
I didn't have the audio up much today, but anyway, so Shar wrote this up for us. Nestruction Dwerby is, ironically enough, about creation. The project is not for selfish reasons. While it's definitely a challenge, and having a huge world record count is fun to look at, it's more about growing speedrunning as a whole. Whether it's putting up runs on dead boards, routing games that no one else wanted to, or improving existing records, these actions are intended to get more people to do more runs or learn more games. More exposure, more runs, and more fun. And of course, yeah, and I should have just read that before I talked.
Yeah, no, I mean, but that's such a cool project. So
Yeah.
she's Shardcore. If that sounds like something you'd like to see, and if I imagine for most people here, it is. Watch her stream.
Oh yeah, and I had a
By
slide
the
for it.
way, Rayo also subscribing. So thank you for that, Rayo.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, also a lot of magnets over there.
All right, up next, we had the Mega 16, which is the Genesis race. I help me out here. I believe it's actually just 10 games. I believe, not 16. I could be wrong, but anyways, there are the places for that.
Right. So
Jordash.
Jordash, 7K, Lenamek, and Kranoon, rounding out the top three.
So congrats to all those racers. Make sure to look out for that next year.
Yep. And speaking of big events, the Big 20 list has been released. I don't remember which Big 20 we're on now, but it'll be Saturday, March 7th. And there it is. There's the list. I feel like we were talking about this earlier, Stormy. I feel like the list is getting a lot of love this time around. It seems like people are generally happy with the list. Is anybody in chat? I know Rayo's doing. Is anybody else planning on doing the Big 20?
Yeah, it does seem like there's a lot of people interested in it. I know I can say I like a good amount of the games. I mean, like we were talking to, if with any Big 20, there's going to be some bad games in there. But yeah, you've got a Mega Man, you've got Adventure Island. People are Tom in January just finished, so a lot of people are already running that.
Yeah, and there's some people that knew Shatterhand from the Nescathlon last year.
Yeah, Wampum was on
Well,
a previous Nescathlon as well, I believe.
right.
Uh,
Probably a lot of people have played Adventure Island. Um, so
I,
yeah, it
I
should be an
guess
interesting one.
Implosion Retro Gaming says he's doing Big 20. I wasn't aware of that. That's cool.
Okay, cool.
Well, good luck to all the racers. Obviously,
Yeah,
we're actually going to try and have someone on the next episode of the podcast that's either been involved with Big 20 before or is planning on racing. So we'll let you know once we figure that out. But we're shopping around some ideas. So
absolutely. Um, before we get to some individual world records and runs, Pixels for Peace, which is benefiting Save the Children. That's going to be Friday, February 28th. So that's coming up
mm-hmm.
as well. Can you tell people a little bit about what they can expect from that event?
Yeah, so this is, and I actually participated in it last year. I think they've been doing it 3, 4, 5 years, something like that. Mannix, what is it, Mannix 86? I always forget the numbers. People and their
I know that.
numbers, the Storm
I know,
Crows
right?
and the Zorillas too. Yeah, right. But yeah, so, and they switch the charity up each year, primarily speed running, but I don't think it's exclusively retro or anything, but a lot of retro runners. So
Yeah.
um, check it out. Donate if you can, and then maybe next year hop on and do some runs.
Yeah, definitely.
Up next, so TMNT 2. We actually have a double record here. By the way, thank you all
Hmm.
so much for the subs. We're getting subs coming in. So TMNT 2. So Skunky and Pika Pika Pikachu um, each. So Skunky got the Japanese record, and Pika got the U.S. record within like a 2-3 week window.
Right.
And those
Yeah,
records
I was
were old. Go ahead.
I was getting confused for a minute there because I was like, man, this game is like they're swapping records back and forth. But yeah, it's the U.S. version and the Japanese version that were both kind of grinding.
Yeah, and very different games, really. Different mechanics for sure. Um, but yeah, so the J version is definitely quicker. But yeah, both incredible feats. And those they beat some really solid runs too. So congrats to both runners.
Yep. And then another big one, Mario 1, 80% run. Cosmic got that record back, posting a 4 minute, 55 second, and 646 millisecond run. Of course, in Mario 1, those milliseconds count,
Oh yeah,
make a difference. A pretty
crazy.
incredible one to watch. It's really a fun. A lot of times seeing people break records is just a really cool thing. If you haven't seen that run, I recommend it. I watched it. I think the next day after it happened. So
Yeah, and it's a
yeah,
short watch too. So yeah, you owe it to yourself to watch it.
right. And such a prominent speed run, such a prominent game. Um, yeah, definitely worth a watch. So big GGs to Cosmic for that one.
Whoop whoop. And on that note, we got some more Mario action. So GT Ace 99 took the record back for Glitchless with a 503 284, beating Cosmic by around 300 milliseconds, which I think is around what Cosmic had on his too. So huge as
Yeah,
well.
and Mario 2, also the Japanese Mario 2, not the US Mario 2.
The real
Tecate,
Mario too.
yeah, the real Mario 2. There you go. There's Tecate celebrating there. That was a let's see, what was that? A 756 and 798.
So yeah, congrats to Tecate as well. And he was pumped. He drank some Tecates that night.
Oh, I bet he did.
Another huge NES game, Metroid Any Percent, CHX 42 with 939. He also took Deathless in 1114 as well. So congrats
Yeah,
to CHX.
right. Yes, I mean it's what's incredible is these games that are very optimized. They're games that have had records that people have said can't be beaten, and they get beaten. And another one, speaking of which, was Zelda Z1 Any Percent No Up and a new world record by RC Drone beating out Lack Attack, who to me Lack Attack and Z1 record is just those two went together, but RC Drone snuck in there and beat him by a couple of seconds.
Yeah, 2 seconds. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a fairly long game, but yeah, that's a decent little chunk.
Right.
Now, I'm
Yeah.
sure
Pretty
that
amazing.
that's not permanent, as no records are. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's just those records that you sort of get used to. You sort of settle in with
Hmm.
the idea that Z1, that that belongs to LAC. Little Nemo goes with a certain person in your head, that kind of thing. Obviously,
Right,
but
the Tenjin engine.
yeah. So I think it's really fun to see those records fall, because they're ones that just they're just shocking when they fall, in a good way, shocking
Sure.
in a fun way.
Yeah, and it drives the competition. I'm sure Lack. I would imagine he's probably going to try and take it back. I have to say too, Crit's freaking out because we haven't covered Super Mario Brothers 2 USA. It's coming up. Don't worry about it. I just didn't plan well, and there's a gap of Mario. So let's see. Up next, what do we got? So we got a lot to talk about here. We got a lot. So
You've got a lot to talk about. This is
right. Well, and I told you a little bit about what's going on. So Ocarina of Time. So there's a new strat for, it's called ACE, or Arbitrary Code Execution. I believe it's similar to like the wrong warp that they do in Mario 3, where you're kind of like reprogramming the game, to cut to the credits. So they just completely destroyed this game. Low Zoots with the 956. So I think this was discovered, I don't know, a couple months ago or something. So here's where things get crazy. Like a week later, Save State posts this on Twitter with a 939, and here's his controller. So he built this custom notch, like to where the analog stick is like held in a certain way to be able to do these weird tricks. And this this is the full setup, which is like they're debating whether or not this is going to be allowed. And obviously this is, I don't know. What are your thoughts on this, Cirilla? It gets me all flustered.
I know. I know it gets you flustered. I don't know what to think about that. I mean, it's really inventive. It's very creative. Is
Yeah.
this something where maybe you go, all right, is this a new category? Is thing? I mean, do you have to now, does everyone going to have to now show their controllers on stream to see what type of controller setup you're using? String enhanced gaming, Amore says. Or is it just like, hey, however you can get the buttons pushed?
Right. Yeah, and I have mixed feelings about it too. But having said that, I did write a limerick. Yeah, that's right.
Right.
I wrote a limerick because that's what this podcast is about. It's about powdered sugar beverage mixes and limericks.
Yeah. And limerick, of course.
So, without further ado, speed running assisted with notches. The runner essentially watches. Sure, it takes skill, and do what you will, but frankly, I find it preposterous. Thank you very much.
That's right. You have won Carl Castle's voice on your answering machine.
And you may have noticed that it technically didn't rhyme, but that's the best I could do with the word notches. So
40 with the jazz snacks. I like that.
anyways, and then to finish this out too, Majora's Mask, they've also figured out an Ace credits warp too, so people are working on that. Yeah, moving on.
Yeah, Mario 64, the 120 star break the record event as an ESA thing. Tell me about that one, Stormy.
Yeah, pretty big event. They put on a great show too. So they had all the best runners out there trying to break the record because as we talked about last month, there's a bounty. And Cheese got a new record, 138.54, verified live, which is crazy. So I think it broke down to, so I know he got at least $10,000 because of the bounty money, and I think Elgato kicked in some, and then you see some of the other runners, that came up next, got some money too. But yeah, Mario 64, man, there's a A lot going on with that.
I love. Yep. And speaking of Mario's, all right, crit. We're back to the Mario's. Mario 2, any percent. Cool Kid. Who else?
CK.
Coming in with the, let me get the time here. Sorry. 816.984.
And I think he's still grinding it too. But yeah, big ups to CK. God Gamer.
Crits just says, good. Yep. One of the best.
And following up with that, Mario 3, any percent, which I was just talking about with the wrong warp. Karua held that for a very long time. Zakubi finally beat that with the 303.566, which Shar has ran as well.
Yep. The next one on the list, too, is going to be of special interest, I think, to our guest today. But Stan's getting that Batman any percent record. That's another one that I was surprised to see. 949.733.
Yeah, taking Indy's old record. What did he beat it by? Like 3 seconds or something? Yeah, just destroyed it. So that one's going to be tough to beat.
Move. Yep, that's a good move.
Yeah. You go ahead and take this one.
All right, we've got Castlevania.
Oh,
now, is this one?
No, we missed. So this 40. It's all right. Well, I'll take it then. I'll take this one.
You take. Well, I read it too. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm just being silly. So yeah, 40-watt range. Good friend of the show. He wrote up a very cool article about Mister in speedrunning, which if you're not familiar, we will be posting the link later on the YouTube. 40, feel free to throw the link out.
40 there.
What's that?
I like the picture. I like the big picture of 40 on.
Yeah,
it was really an interesting write-up. I think it's really worth a read.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a good chance of being the future of retro gaming in general, but seems to be a good spot for speedrunners too.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not familiar, look it up. It's a short read, but really good info.
Castlevania. I don't know if you heard about this, Stormy.
Oh no! What happened?
Now, okay. Now is this 1 through 3 in a row?
No, CV2 is just the most recent one. He just happens to hold all 3 right now.
I see. Okay. So CV2, SBD Wolf, 40-46. That's the 100% run, and then any percent, 30-52. So SBD Wolf is the undisputed Castlevania king. Is that what you're telling me?
I'd say that's accurate. Yes.
That's pretty impressive because that's another one that has another series that has a lot of runners. A lot of people love playing those. So to have 3, to have the trifecta there is pretty incredible. So give it up for SBD Wolf.
Yeah, and he's a great runner in general. I don't know if he still has it, but he's had multiple Cuphead records, and yeah, he's a beast. He's pretty young too.
Cool.
I'll take this one because Echo is one of my all-time favorite games. But Echo Tides of Time, which was a sequel to Echo the Dolphin on Genesis, that record was just broken by Grim Shins, the 3427. So congrats to Grim Shins.
Well done, Grim Shins. This one I think might get a reaction in chat. Karnov being played outside of November. First of all, I don't know how I feel about that.
Every day is Carnovember.
Every day is Carnovember. But Hyrexen, another very strong, very talented speedrunner, doing it in 8 minutes, 47.216.
Taking down the king, yeah. Dragon Darch so far has not snapped back. So,
right. How do you feel about that, Pipes? I bet Pipes is excited about that one.
Yeah, I mean, and that run's just been so optimized. So I can't wait to see where it goes next year.
Speaking of optimized runs, Stormy. You want to take this one? This is probably
okay. Yeah, you go ahead.
Speaking of highly optimized runs, this is actually out of date. Our
Oh, is it? Okay.
Our schedule here says 43 seconds, but I think Arcus got the burrito today in 38 seconds, lowering the world record by a full 5 seconds. Is that right? Can somebody confirm that?
Wow.
I think we had yet another lowering of the world record today for burrito, 100%.
Give it up.
100% category.
Yeah, and I've just fired our intern, by the way.
Yeah, let's get him out of here. I feel like we don't need interns.
But yeah, that's been a lot of fun watching Arcus do his cooking streams and stuff, and his new streaming setup. It's been pretty cool. So keep up the good work, Arcus.
Yeah, we had these interns came from Tang Gaming sent them. That's why they're so terrible.
Just ripped on Salvia. It's for another podcast. Up next, so we got the RGL TV, Retro Gaming Live TV. They've got a few events coming up. Discathlon would be the first one. That's February 8th. 10 Disney games in a row over multiple systems. That's tomorrow. So tune in. You're probably not going to have time to run it unless you want to do it blind. Pull an Infinite Mystery.
Sure.
Up next, Zorilla.
They've also got, RGL Love, fundraiser to get staff to GDQ and other events. And that is coming up right away, too, February 9th through 16th.
All kinds of good stuff there.
And they've also got Retrothon submissions are open now. And then the submissions are open now through the 23rd. But then the runs will be in April 19th through 26th. So I know a few people in chat have probably sent things for that. I think Crit has. If anybody else has a run they've sent out, let us know.
Yeah, and me and 40 Watt Range have submitted a any percent race for Team and T Arcade, so hoping that gets accepted. But yeah,
nice. I didn't know you.
Oh yeah, you gotta submit to Retrothon. You need to submit one too. Seriously, it's the best retro exclusive speedrunning event in my opinion. So if you're not submitting, you gotta be watching all that. So
sure. All right, I think that concludes the news for this week, doesn't it?
I believe it does, and I think we got another word from our sponsor, right?
Right. We'll bring in Dave in a minute, but first.
Oh, this one's you.
This podcast, thank you. Sorry about that. This podcast is brought to you by the Iatus Group, consisting of Gruntiatus, Pranziatus, Gochiatus, and Tecatiatus. The Iatus Group is a prudent investment and as close to a sure thing as the law allows us to say. Invest in the Iatus Group today, and you'll be dancing the flamenco when your Iron Mike alloy profits come soda popping back. Safe, prudent, the Iatus Group.
Thank you so much to the Iatus Group. They did pay, by the way.
Yeah, so, that check did not bounce.
So on that note, news is done. Without further ado, allow me to introduce our featured guest for the evening, the man you have all been waiting for, Mr. Junkyard Dave.
Welcome in, Dave. Welcome in.
That's such a lie, but thank you.
Oh, no, everybody loves you.
That's also a lie, but thank you.
A good amount of people love you.
Still lying.
Okay, all right, I can't win. How you doing, Dave?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you guys?
I'm good. Great. I'm having fun. What's
Dave? Tell us what's new in Junkyard Land.
I think I have to start off with a confession to you guys, and I'm really sorry. So kind of in like the pre-interview, we were kind of talking about like jobs and stuff like that. I am actually the CEO of Tang Gaming. I'm really sorry.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty awkward hearing you smash me like that. So.
Yeah, wow. This is gonna be a rough interview.
A little bit of a twist.
No, anyway, it goes pretty well. Thank you guys for asking.
We can just put that on the shelf for now. Maybe we can bring that back later.
Yeah. What have you been streaming lately, Dave? What's new?
Oh man, I don't even know anymore. So Stan's destroyed Batman. But I wouldn't say that like demotivated me, but at the same time I was kind of moving away from Batman, so I was kind of working on Chippendale.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I want to go back to Batman, to be honest. But at the same time, it's a mix between, I think, for the most part, Chippendale, Goof Troop with Cat, or Lufia with Cat, or pretty much just Chippendale. So
Okay. Yeah, we won't hold you to anything, but and just so you know, before we officially dive into various topics, because we do have a lot to talk with you about, something that we are at least trying out is asking to get started 3 questions to all of our guests. So we'll just do that first, and then we'll kind of go from there. So first off, Dave, how did you get into speed running? Take as much time as you would like.
good question, actually. See, I don't even know how to answer that because I think my first initial experience with it was Dexter. So I remember seeing way back when Dexter running Batman at AGDQ and Whitman Price running Turtles 1. But I never really like saw Dexter or Whitman and thought like, hey, I want to speedrun too. So flash forward way back in September or whatever, in 2016, I decided to make a Twitch account. My brother asked, hey, this is the thing. So he asked me if I wanted to make a Twitch account as well, so I did. And it turns out the very first thing that I actually streamed was actually NHL 94. Like, nobody watched it, whatever.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, dude, it's so good. But so the next day, I went to actually stream Batman, and I beat it, and it took like 2.5 hours. And I beat some other games right after that. It was like Monsters in My Pocket. I remember Chippendale was one. And then a couple days later, I went back to Batman, and the 2.5 hours that it took I think like an hour and 40 the second time. So then I was like a little bit curious. I was like, I wonder if I can get that like below an hour. So I came back a couple days later, and it was like an hour and 10 or something like that. And then it kept dropping lower and lower beyond that.
Just opened up your eyes.
Yeah, so I think it was kind of like, I think a big part of it too is actually Baze. There's a dude that I met really, really early on Twitch. His name was Baze86, and ND also really early on kind of stumbled upon me because of Batman. But they both kind of like pushed me in a little bit of a way because like it was like, okay, you're clearly new to speedrunning, but at the same time, like you can do better. So I think that kind of helped.
And Dexter was speedrunning when you watched him too, right? Or was he?
Yeah, that was
Okay.
at AGDQ.
Oh, at AGDQ. Okay, I must have missed that. Okay.
And Dave, I think that's so important for people, not just like people that are new to speedrunning, but it's just so nice when getting involved in the community and they find that people are encouraging and friendly. I know that's one thing that I was going to mention that I really appreciated when I was shooting for the sub 10 in Chippendale. I felt like that you were someone that helped me a lot. I know I've seen you in other channels giving tips, helping people learn strats and stuff. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate, and I can see obviously because I get that too. Like obviously being new and stuff like that, there's not a community that immediately surrounds you. So especially when it comes to like crossing games, like being in a game that you're not necessarily familiar with. So I mean, to me, like Baze was like a super big part of that when it came to Batman, and people like Endy, like they both helped me a lot as well.
And this
So I
Baze,
just try to pay it forward.
do they still stream Baze?
Baze, no, unfortunately, he stopped streaming probably like a year and a half ago.
Okay. Very cool.
Endy might still stream. I don't know.
Yeah, I hear he's posting YouTube videos with Mega Man without cheater glitches or something.
Yeah.
If anybody saw that tweet, it was hilarious. Okay.
I saw that.
And then, Zarilla, you want to ask question number 2?
Sure, yeah. What is your favorite speed game or your favorite casual game?
Oh boy.
Or one of your favorites. Or you can name multiples, but you know. Name
Yeah,
a game.
I think we know that's a hard question. I think that's kind of why we ask it.
It's tricky because I would say casually, I'm not even sure. I mean, maybe if you want to count it casually, like in a non-competitive way, like Street Fighter or Pokemon. So those are two pretty big interests of mine. In terms of a speedrun, I'd say Co-op Goop Troop easily became, I think, like one of my favorite speedruns. And then if you want to do it like in a more singular way, even though Batman is really, 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 really good, hard mode Bucky might beat it out just slightly. But if you want to go beyond NES, I would say Celeste is really good, and Mega Man X2 is really good.
Yeah, all really good games.
Yeah.
And we'll be coming back to talk more about Bucky O'Hare down the road too. We got a nice little surprise for everybody. On that note too, I actually was looking at, you listed on Twitter as your interest was Pokemon VGC and TCG and Street Fighter. So it's funny you bring that up for your casual stuff now.
Yeah, they're super nerd interests to the point that I was actually watching a VGC related video like before you even interviewed did anything.
Oh,
So,
nice. Can
like,
you
literally today I was doing something regarding to that. So
what is VGC? I know TCG because I play Magic and stuff. You know, the card game is what TCG stands for. What the hell is VGC? I've never asked.
yeah, acronym wise, it's pretty simple. It just is video game championships. So
Okay.
really simply explained, it's basically a competitive Pokemon, but the format that Nintendo uses is double battles. And there is so much like in terms of like depth and strategy and like everything, it just goes infinitely. It's just infinite. There's so much that you can do, and it's actually really frustrating because I think from a casual perspective, like if you go and you were to like go right now and play like a Pokemon game, any generation for the most part, minus the one that maybe just came out, you could go start to finish. You could play that Pokemon game. You could beat it inside it out, and then mechanics wise, like in game wise, they almost explain nothing. They literally almost explain nothing when it comes to VGC. Like all the mechanics required are just like absent from the solo experience.
It seems like a lot of bigger games almost seem to be like that when you get into like League of Legends or what's the other equivalent of that? I don't know. With those huge followings, they've just become their own entity, and it's kind of crazy to think how people even get into them.
It's pretty daunting. Like at this point, there's like over 800 Pokemon and like over 800 moves or something, and probably close to like 800 items. So I mean, it's not easy to get into.
Jeez. All right, and then and we'll come back to some of these topics too, but just to kind of set a baseline, favorite childhood gaming memory, if you can think of one.
That's a good question as well. I'm not sure. The first thing that actually comes to my mind, which is like unrelated completely to what you asked, is my brother used to like stand on his tippy toes to play like random video games. He would do it all the time. Like he would always stand on his tippy toes. And my mom has like a picture on her fridge, I think, where my brother is like standing up to play something. I don't know what it was. I have to go back and check. But apparently that's my first gaming memory that doesn't involve me playing the game or video games in general.
Well, that is very cute, but is that an older brother or a younger brother?
No, he's a younger brother.
Okay. Right on. Yeah, and I don't know, like I think especially we're playing retro games, I think a lot of people have, childhood nostalgia and stuff, so it's important to think back on that. So yeah, I mean, can you kind of tell us a little bit just about yourself, in general, where you're from, what you do?
Yeah, so as I said, CEO of Tang Gaming. No. um, so actually my background is in education. I used to teach English and my minor was in biology, but I haven't done that in a while, sadly. Teaching was like the most fulfilling job I ever had. It was really hard to find a continual contract. So probably about 4 years ago or so, I opened up my own business. That's actually where my Twitch name comes from. My business name is called Dave's Junkyard. I just switched it for Twitch, literally.
That is awesome.
Video games, trading cards, like comic books, stuff like that.
I want to go to there.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it was always a home-based business. I've always been like stuck in between hiring employees and like opening up like an actual business or whatever, like physical storefront.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like it's a lot better than a teacher ever was, which is very frustrating to say because I taught everything from post-secondary to kindergarten, and it's easily the best job I've ever had. But again, continual contracts and like tenure are horrible, and it's really, really hard to find a job. So
Sure. Well, yeah, I commend you for your service there. I know I have a few friends that are teachers. Zarilla, you said you did a little teaching as well, right?
Yeah, I taught for a couple of years.
No big deal. Just cash teach.
It
And
wasn't. I speed ran my career in teaching.
yeah, it's a tricky profession. Like it is the epitome of a profession. Sorry, I think that doesn't get paid enough and doesn't get enough recognition for real. So it doesn't really matter. I think where you are in the world that you do it. It's just it's a rough one. So
and speaking of where you are in the world, so you're in Canada. Whereabouts in Canada are you at in general? As specific as you want to be.
yeah, Edmonton, Alberta. It's also pretty rough. So we get minus 40 and plus 40 on each side of the spectrum for summer and winter. So I don't know why I live
Jeez.
here.
Yeah, the other day you accidentally Discord called me and you were all bundled up like you were about to go out on a Arctic expedition.
Yeah, no, it's really cold. Like we literally get. Actually, Grunt can confirm. I know he's said many times in his chat he's from the same city, but it was like minus
cool.
52 a couple weeks ago.
You guys need to do a crossover episode.
Minus 52.
Minus 52 Celsius. It's horrible.
Oh.
Grunt, why do you live in Edmonton? Like, why do we live here? Like the face hurts our cold, but whatever.
Well, hey,
The
you're
cold hurts our face.
you're stuck inside doing lots of really cool things, both of you.
Right.
And you listed hockey as an interest on Twitter as well. So obviously Canada hockey. Got to talk about that. Did you play hockey?
Yes.
Or just a fan? Okay.
Live, breathe hockey. Played hockey for 17 years. Still
Nice.
play hockey if I'm able to. I love hockey. It's like the most stereotypical Canadian thing, but this is 100% true. Like, put a hockey stick in my hands, I'll be very happy.
Hell yeah. No, that's awesome, man. And that's cool that you're you're still staying active. I know that's not easy for a lot of us gamers. Especially since a lot of us are getting older too.
I've always loved sports.
And
And
Okay.
now you do a lot of gaming with Kat Kunoichi. Tell me if I'm pronouncing that wrong.
That's correct.
All right, can you tell us a little bit about how that works and how you do co-op games together? Just
yeah,
tell us about that.
who is Cat? Yeah,
Uh,
give it to us.
Yeah, no, we do a lot of co-op stuff. It's a mix between like local and RetroArch. So RetroArch is pretty straightforward to set up. It's just basically like an online thing, and really cool. Some of them I think it really is a weird thing because I think people don't really realize like how cool a co-op speedrun is until you get to experience it for yourself. But there's like this dependency on like trusting the other person or just having the other person always be there or doing something very specific.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Cat fills that role very well because we've run a couple of things together so far, mainly Wild Guns and Goof Troop, but there's been other stuff like Wheeler and Chippendale and Turtles in Time and some other stuff. But
Yeah, and how lucky you are too. That's so awesome. Like, now,
even Skunky, like when he was at GDQ, I think he posted something on Twitter too, where I think him and Nestmaster like ran Turtles 2 together, and he's like, I understand. He's like, co-op gaming is so much better.
And so-
It really is fun. So
and so she's Italian. Is that right? Does she actually live in Italy? So you guys are playing over the net, or?
yeah, unless we're obviously randomly together or whatever. But
Okay. Did I just say the net? By the way, I'm pretty sure. Okay.
Straight up
Yeah.
1990.
Well,
You guys
Sandra
are
Bullock, I
you
think.
guys are on the
Matrix
line.
coming up.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I always wondered. I didn't know, if she just had had a weird accent or what? I don't
No, she's very
I'm an idiot.
Italian.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'll have to pop in there. I speak a little Italian myself.
Oh, right on. Yeah, I remember you saying that you were over there for a while when you were younger.
But yeah, and I played Goof Troop the other day with a friend. What a freaking fun game! I can imagine that. I've watched you guys do some co-op streams of that. I'm jealous. Is what it boils down to.
I honestly get that a lot. It's kind of funny, but it just Goof Troop in general, like that's like quintessential co-op game. I think if I were to recommend anything to anyone, and it set a precedent like super high for us because like every co-op game that we've tried afterwards, like in terms of the speedrun, just feels like crap. Because at least with Goof Troop, there's like 4 screens or something that Goofy is worthless, but like otherwise Goofy is 100% dependent on Max, and then Max is 100% dependent on Goofy. Like you just have to like have synergy and work together.
Yeah, those runs are really fun to watch. I've watched you guys do some of those.
Yeah, no, it easily hands down my favorite. And Wild Guns was also really good too. But
Yes, and speaking of Skunky,
jump on to the next thing here, Stormy.
yeah,
Stormy's noted just as big logo. Big
Question.
percent. I don't know. So run with that. Let's run with that.
So yeah, what's up with the pig logo? Tell the people.
the pig, Cat drew it, and I liked it. It was like the most wholesome, innocent-looking pig ever, so I just started using it as my Twitter thing.
Nice, and I do like it, but okay, so it's not related to pig percent.
No, that was actually really cool. Crit really jumped on that, and I'm glad that's actually where I met him of all things. Like, how many people can say that they met Crit through Sim Farm? So,
Yeah, Crit Rocket Runner, former world record holder of pig percent for Sim Farm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's where I met him.
Okay. All right, cute pig noted. I also saw on your picture, so you ran at GDQ. I didn't realize that either. I saw your. Is that correct?
Technically, and no and yes at the same time. So the GDQ that Kat and I went to, I did submit Batman, and I originally submit Bucky, but I withdrew it. But they did accept Batman, so I was accepted as a runner. But it was a backup runner because at the time, Andy and Dexter had also submitted Batman.
Oh.
And they asked me if I wanted to do a race or anything like that. And I was like, you know what, thinking about it, I'm perfectly fine with just going, like interacting with people, because this was like the first GDQ and stuff that I went to.
Okay.
Turns out, like, there actually was a delay on their flights twice. First, they missed, I think, like the transit flight or whatever. And then they got like delayed in Germany. So if they got delayed like one more day, they wouldn't have raced at all. And then I would have had to run Batman by myself.
Oh God.
Luckily,
no pressure.
Their flights connected, and they wound up there like 3.5 days late or something.
Nice. Okay. Well, yeah, that's still cool. Is that the only GDQ you've been to, or?
Yeah, so far.
And what year was that?
2018.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, I just saw that picture and wondered. So you have a relationship with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, is that right? Would you say that's fair?
Partially fair, yeah.
Okay. Well, you've ran TMNT 2. I mean, you've messed with Turtles in Time a little bit too, right? Are you a Turtles fan in general, or seems like I see you around Turtle stuff a lot?
Partially, it's such a weird thing. Like, I wouldn't say I'm like huge. Okay, it's weird because the comics, Mirage, like the Mirage comics for Turtles, right up there with VGC. Like, it's so good. Everybody should abandon the concept of a cartoon being really good and go back and read the comics.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I want to read them myself.
Yeah, no, they're insanely good. They're such a big interest, and I love them. Turtles 1, I'm sorry, Skunky, but I've said it before to Whitman as well. Like, the game itself is passable. we'll very delicately use that word, say passable. But it's one of the favorite things that I like watching on Twitch in terms of speedruns. It's one of those games where the speedrun is like really, really good to me, and I like it a lot. And I did run Turtles 2 a long time ago before these new guys came in and destroyed the record, and I had the Japan record for a while.
Oh, did you? Okay, that's cool. Yeah, and you've come up with tons of strats for Turtles 2, among other games. Um,
Yeah,
like you're not even running it, and you're sending stuff to Skunky on Twitter that you've tasked out, which brings us back to what Zorilla was talking about with you helping people out too. You've just not only you've got that friendly attitude, but you've just got that desire to understand things, which I think is really cool.
I think it goes back to being a teacher, honestly.
Okay.
It's just kind of like that personality that I've always had. But I've said it a couple times streaming before that if I had the opportunity to actually stream and do stuff like speedrunning, or not stream and task and kind of like quietly help out behind the scenes, I'd probably do the latter actually. I'm more comfortable doing that, I think. But it just so happens that apparently I stream as well. I do like the tasking aspect. I do like understanding. Like, I think that's the biggest part of my brain is like I have to understand something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but I get a lot of people. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's always been an interest like that.
one of the ways that I think about you, Dave, is someone who has a very analytical approach to games that you run, that you're interested in, and that obviously helps for finding strats, explaining strats, why things work, why things are faster, or that kind of thing. Yeah, go ahead.
No, yeah, no, I would say that completely. Like any game that I run for the most part, I could probably tell you. I wouldn't say down to the frame, but like a huge amount of information about it, in terms of like really hard strats, like task only strats or something like that. But there is something in my brain where it's like I have to know that stuff. But it's I think more so in such a way like I have to know it to kind of improve myself, or to help out other people or something like that. It's not really like I don't learn a game like that. Like if I pick up a new game or something, it's just something that kind of comes along. I don't intentionally try to like pick up like to the frame knowledge or anything like that. So it's very selective. It's really weird. Some games it's like that. Some games it's like what's a jump? So
Yeah, and I think it's so rare to see a speedrunner that can actually that either can or does tasks. So I mean, you're a unicorn, baby.
it's true. It's actually really true. One of the interesting things that I always thought about like the tasking community is, for example, there's a guy named Eglar, and he did the Batman task, and Batman's task is like 921. But the kind of cool part about Eglar, as far as I know, he's also destroyed Chippendale in terms of tasking it, but he's never ran anything. So there's almost like a tasking community that's very separate that likes to destroy games in like the most frame way possible, but at the same time does no interest, whatever, like has literally no interest in running it themselves. And then the speedrunning community is like almost opposite of that, where there's a lot of people that like to run stuff, but they don't like to task stuff. So it's like every so often you kind of meet in the middle.
Yeah, and go ahead, Zorilla.
I was just going to say this might be jumping a little bit ahead, but on that note, I feel like your approach and your kind of living in both those worlds gives you kind of a unique perspective. We had written down to ask you about advice, maybe for speedrunners, or thoughts, maybe approaches that you think can help people. Even though this is out of order, it just feels like it might be a good time to talk about that.
Approaches in like learning a game, or
Yeah, just speedrunning in general. I mean, I guess more for a new runner, but what kind of advice would you give to someone? I mean, you can expand upon it as much as you want to.
See, I think like the way that I try to learn a game, I don't know if it's like that for everybody, but there's like two ways that I kind of learn. Is people either immediately jump to kind of like world record strats, which I started to do. Like Chippendale, I kind of like looked at Endy's run for the most part, and that was it. Or when I was newer, I think it's really important, especially if you're kind of like a newer runner or something like that, to chronologically go upwards and kind of like a hierarchy. So if you have a run and it's like 30th place or something like that, instead of looking at the world record guy, check out 25th and then see what kind of strats that person is doing, and then check out 22 and then keep going higher and higher that way. Because there's a lot of backup strats and stuff like that that obviously get missed in the world record run, that you wouldn't otherwise know. I practice segments a lot, like individual segments. I don't know if you've ever like randomly stumbled upon my save states or something for Chip and Dale, but you can very easily see kind of like how I go about learning a game or something like that. And then I think the only other thing that I would say is kind of what links into later. But learn to task. Like tasking is actually like a very valuable skill to have. Kat actually taught me how to task, so 100% I'm in debt to her. But
Noise.
yeah, learning to understand that like is really, really valuable, because then you can answer your own questions if, for example, like the community is dead around the game that you're trying to run, or just in general, you know, if you're curious about like a certain jump or some kind of strat or something like that, you have exact knowledge at that point. You know exactly to the frame or exactly to the pixel how to do something.
And of course, you can expand upon that too. You know, I'm sure it takes a certain type of brain to start to, you know, think about what kind of weird glitches you could look for or whatever. But yeah, even at that base level of tasks, that can open up a big world. Real quick, I think we should go ahead and show your video. I think this is a good time to do that. We can still talk a little bit more about that, but yeah, Dave actually made a video, giving a brief rundown of what it looks like to do a basic task. So it's about 5 minutes long. Let's take a look, and we'll be right back.
So what's up, Good Luck Go Fast? My name is Junkyard Dave, or Dave, and as a kid, I used to have this game called Buck Your Hair. It is probably one of the better NES games, I think. Really good game. Not a lot of people, even on Twitch now, have played it. I've only ever seen handfuls of people. But we're going to show you guys how to task. So as a kid, I always used to jump on this log. I always used to wait. As the water comes to an end here, I always used to jump off. And then I would never be able to make this jump, which apparently we did. Well, okay then. I guess we'll work backwards. So normally that jump was impossible. But we're going to figure out why that jump is impossible, I guess going backwards now. So, much like everybody can Strider, everybody can task, I think, for the most part, but whether or not you enjoy it is a totally different story. It's pretty tedious no matter what. So, this is through BizHawk. There's something called Task Studio, and a quick overlay is, it's actually not bad to understand this. The frame on each side or whatever is an individual frame counter. So this, if you need a specific frame or something like that, or you need to measure in frames. This, for example, in the movie recording, is frame number 11952, so 11,952. We have multiple columns up here, but they repeat themselves. So this is up, down, left, right, start, select, B, A, and then same thing here. But this is for second controller. And that's kind of the gist of tasking. The only other thing that we have here is the duration. So we'll show you guys. I actually made that jump. I didn't mean to make that jump. This jump is actually horrible. But when we get over here, Bucky, for example, he pushes A on this frame. So there is apparently a 2-frame input. So you see this on this particular frame. There's 2 frames before the jump registers. That's pretty normal for like most NES games. It's usually like 2 or 3 frames or something like that before an input registers. But we jump here and we can change the jump height. So as long as this button is held down repeating like that, that's the duration of how long you're holding A on the NES controller. So for example, if we go like this and we just cut it like really short, Jumpy's buck arc. Yeah, okay. Bucky's jump arc is going to change. So he's going to go from jumping previously and making this jump to not making this jump anymore. So we already know that he can make this jump. But what we don't know is from what frame that he can make the jump from. So this jump actually is frame perfect. We added 1 single jump frame and he can no longer make this jump. So that means if we skip back to here and we remove this jump, you can see he moves 1 pixel more, and then he starts jumping. And then he makes the jump. So we can understand that this jump actually is pixel perfect, because if we remove this one, he's probably going to die as well. Yeah, he just falls. So this is your one particular frame that you need to make the jump from. So it's probably pixel perfect, which also means it's probably frame perfect, because if we had a lower jump arc before, so he dies there. and he makes it there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have a jump in Bucky that is 1 pixel and 10 frames, because if we remove even 1 frame, he dies. So that's kind of the overview of the tasking. There's other tools within Task Studio, or I should say BizHawk in general, called like RAM Watch, where you can figure out like individual values. There's so much that you can do. This is just kind of like tip of the iceberg, literally. I really hope people pick it up. I really hope other people check it out, because tasking is invaluable, I think, to a speedrunner. Because if you, for example, you know, you want to make a jump or something like that in Bucky, but you have no idea how to do it, being able to kind of just like task this jump and figuring it out is a lot easier than trying to like RTA it over and over. So what's up, Good Luck Go Fast? My name is Junkyard Dave, or Dave, and as a kid...
Alrighty, sorry about that. Apparently we missed the end of it. But you get the gist, right?
Well, if they didn't, at least it played a second time.
Did it play twice?
No.
Or just started over? Okay. But yeah,
No, I just started over.
hopefully you all enjoyed that. I thought that was really cool. I've always wondered how it worked. Did you have any... I guess, yeah, we can probably go a little bit more on tasks. Did you have any questions, Zorilla, just in general?
No, I thought that was actually a really cool explanation. I'm probably going to go back and watch that again, actually. Maybe there's some way we can make that video available.
Oh yeah, you can upload it. I guess I can upload it to YouTube or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the best tutorial because it's really kind of like a condensed overview, but
I think that's a good place to start, because for somebody like me that only knows what task is in theory and never really knew how it was done, it's a pretty accessible introduction.
Yeah, to the
for sure.
electric scooter driving, vape using, you know, youth that can only handle 3-minute sound bites. It's perfect.
Right.
Anyway, so moving on, we're kind of just going through the list of some random things. So I noticed a trend that you seem to have a lot of ninja games that you've played. Does that just happen naturally? Do you go after ninja games?
No, that was Kat basically holding a firearm against my back. Originally, actually, the first one was her. The second one, it was a legitimate interest of my own. So.
Just the Ninja Gaiden games? I feel like
Yeah.
you had some other ninja games from what I remember too, though. Were there not? You've got a ton of stuff on your speedrun profile.
I'm not sure. I don't think, maybe there's something else that like a ninja in there, but I think the only 2 that I ever really ran was Ninja Gaiden 1 and 2 for the most part.
Maybe I was thinking Ninja Turtles too.
Yeah, Ninja Turtles, I guess so.
But you've probably forgotten some of the games you've ran.
Maybe that could be possible. I mean, Cheetah Man took a lot of brain power away from me, so.
Yeah, tell us about Cheetah Man. Is that your Karnov? What's going on? Which I feel bad saying that.
Yeah, Herexin would slap you if he was in here.
I know, right?
Slander to the 9th degree, just totally unacceptable.
And I love Karnov, but yeah, what's your fascination?
Cheetah, there's not really, sadly, like a great story. So Cheetah Man, I used to actually have like a really decent physical collection, but I got rid of it in lieu of EverDrives, and pretty much every EverDrive that came out was, as you guys probably know, you probably have them yourselves, like very close to 100% in terms of like compatibility and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I just literally kind of like downsized and got rid of everything for the most part in my physical collection. One thing that I could never ever acquire was actually the Cheetah Man 2 prototype for the NES. And I remember reading about it. I always thought it was like really gaudy and awful looking, and could never get my hands on it ever. So there's actually a really cool website. It's called romhacking.net. And a while ago they released a patch. The original prototype is actually broken. If you fight like this monkey boss, you can't progress any further. The monkey boss spawns and then it either dies or walks off screen. It just basically soft locks the game.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah, how bad? But with this patch, like you could actually beat the game. So out of curiosity, because I never had a physical copy, I never tried it. One day I decided to try it, and I was like, sure, this might be the only bad, or in quotations, bad game I'll ever run. But that's how that came to be. So.
Okay, and if I remember correctly, that has some pretty banging music to open it up, doesn't it?
No,
No?
you are suffering
What
hearing loss or something, sir.
Is it Cheetahman 1?
The theme music is horrible. The game music is horrible. There's actually no redeeming qualities about that game at all. It's just all horrible.
Yeah, I smell pennies. I don't know if that's related, but okay.
Yeah, it's all actually horrible. Literally horrible.
What about Yume Penguin Monogatari? I'm sure I'm butchering that. I saw you've played that. That's a Famicom game, right?
Yeah.
What's up with that one?
That one's really good. The whole reason that I started that one was it's actually I have this huge import gaming fascination in terms of like Japanese only games and stuff like that. And that was actually the second one that I ever played, or the first one. I can't remember which came first. But I remember a long time ago I tried Moon Crystal and Yume Penguin. And it was like basically back to back. It was like almost in the same day, and I beat both, and I really, really liked them. But like that was kind of like the beginning of that import love kind of. Okay, I really like import gaming. So Yume is a really silly game. It's a pretty easy platformer if people want to pick it up.
It's pretty cute too.
It's about a fat shaming penguin. It's
okay, less
yeah.
cute. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and I really appreciate the foreign, really, for us foreign releases. I know you've shown me some random stuff. Like there was that one like mini golf Super Famicom game that you showed me. What's that one called?
Yeah, Golf Daisuki.
Yeah, there's just so much untapped potential, not only for casual but for speedrunning as well. I think it's important that people look into Japanese games and whatever else is available. Not to mention old systems like. Go ahead.
No, sorry. I completely agree with that.
Yeah, like Zorilla started off. Was it the first game you ran? Was an Atari game, Zorilla? I feel like that's.
Well, it wasn't the first game I ran. It was pretty early on. The game that I had as a kid. I actually still have the cart here. It's just a game that I knew was an Atari game. You were able to beat, and it didn't have a run on speedrun. So I started off with pretty early on. Did that one.
Yeah, I feel like that's just on a similar tangent. I mean, you think about TurboGrafx 16 and other systems. I mean, there are lots of gems out there, just like you can find gems, in Japanese games and that kind of thing too. Get out there, look around, people.
No, I completely agree. Like we missed out on so much. Like we honestly did. Just in terms of even just platformers, but like RPGs are a huge thing. Like so many that are just like lost in Japan that never had like an English translation or anything like that.
Yeah, and luckily, I mean, we get for more popular games, you can get patches and stuff. But yeah, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of them just don't have patches at all.
No.
Like I got around. I didn't finish it, but I got through pretty far on Sweet Home, which inspired Resident Evil, the NES horror RPG.
Horror game, yeah.
Which is so good. Oh my god, you got to check. I'm not a big RPG guy either, but I mean, I guess it's pseudo kind of action-y RPG, but.
Yeah, I've only heard good things about that one.
So on that note, so I noticed you have like a pretty varied like interests as far as games you run. So action platformers, puzzles, JRPGs, PC games. I mean, do you purposefully kind of look for different types of games, or what motivates you when you pick a game to speedrun?
Pretty simple. Either cat forced binge just on me, or it's just literally my own interest. So I kind of follow my nose there.
Yeah, and I think that's important. I mean, not so much being forced into playing games, but I've always tried to kind of just let myself ride. But at the same time, I do like to get outside of my comfort zone. As far as different systems, different types of games. You've mentioned multiple times about trying to get out of kind of NES running. Can you talk about that a little bit? Why is that?
The complexity of, I think, non-NES runs is very addicting. So like when Kat and I came back from AGDQ, one of the things that I learned was Mega Man X2. And at that point, there's nothing. Like, there's literally nothing that I'm aware of that I know how to do anyway on the NES. Batman actually probably being like the most complex thing on the NES that even comes close to Mega Man X2. And then another thing that I kind of learned parts of was Celeste, and the movement and the tech and the execution required in Celeste is just, again, a completely different table compared to NES speedruns. So NES is kind of nice, but like once you've kind of branched out a little bit like that, it's very hard to play something like Mega Man X2 and then go back to something like Batman or even like Turtles 2 or whatever else was at the time. So I think it's just kind of like more of a personal growth thing. It's more of a personal challenge thing. I like being challenged in such a way that it's harder for me to do something. And I don't really feel like I know there's more than what I know on the NES. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to sound like pompous or anything like that. But I know Dexter's always said like Batman is probably like top 5 hardest optimized speedruns. So beyond learning something harder like Battletoads or apparently Holy Diver, I think I just want to move on to like a different console, different speedruns.
Okay, I feel you. Yeah, that's interesting.
Definitely going backwards, it's like really tricky, especially going forwards. Like it's really weird going from X2 to like Turtles 2, and then it's even weirder going from Turtles 2 to X2.
And have you experimented with any 3D games at all, or are you still kind of stuck more with the 2D side of it? Because obviously that's crossing into literally another dimension.
Yeah, I don't think, like, I've never been huge on 3D platformers for the most part, so I don't know if there would be an interest in that, but and you know, never say never. It's not like I ever thought for the most part I'd ever try out Lufia, and that ended up being a thing. So
yeah, and that's now which category you run? Lufia 2, right? The Ancient Cave.
Yeah.
Which category do you run?
Yeah, the Ancient Cave, which if people aren't familiar, it's like 98 floors of RNG basically. And then there's the boss fight at the end. Like all the items you find are RNG, all the monsters you fight are RNG, like all the weapons you find are RNG, all the spells you find are RNG. So like I shouldn't like this, but I do. So
okay. So the Ancient Cave is actually the category. So it's just okay. I've seen other people. I thought that was just like the name of the game. Okay. Because I've seen Shuri Bear play.
Plenty of luck-based games that can be very addicting. That's for sure. Whether they're whatever they are. I mean, I grew up playing Rogue, the original roguelike, and there's things you can do to try to give yourself the best chance to win. For the end of the day, you have to also get very lucky. It's addicting.
It is a weird combination because I wouldn't say it's like totally luck based because there's enough that you can do to mitigate the luck, but then there's still that element of luck where if it just says no, then the game is saying no, and then that's it. You try again some other day. But for the most part, like you just have just enough control that you can probably be consistent. So it's not totally completely lucky, but at the same time, it's such a weird combination. Like I never thought I would like it. But I'm really glad that Kat learned it with me, but also on top of that, I tried it out.
Nice. Yeah, and you guys actually race on that, I've seen, which is pretty cool, too.
Yeah. Usually we try to race it.
Racing RNG heavy games, that's a whole nother thing, too.
Yeah. It is. It's something, that's for sure.
So yeah, I don't know if you want to talk with him about this Zorilla, but have you seen this ROM hack that Dave has teased?
Yeah, I saw that. Guess on Twitter probably. Is that still a project that you're working on, Dave? The Chippendale ROM hack?
Loosely, I did finish the first stage since I posted that.
Nice.
But beyond that, it's only the first stage that's been done.
Give the people what they want.
Right? Yeah, I think people would love to try. I know I would like to try it. Probably anyone who's played Chippendale at all, I would like to give it a try.
I think it's pretty cool, honestly. Like that, weirdly enough, like Chippendale is a really weird speedrun, but it lends itself really good to like Kaizo or really tight jumps. Like the controls in it are very, very, very fluid and very, very responsive.
So yeah, what's the first level look like? Is that kind of what you're doing, damage boosts and tight jumps? Is there any new or weird tech you've tried to introduce? I mean,
No, for the most part. Like I like the idea of branching paths. So for the most part, all of level 1 kind of has like a top route and a bottom route. And what's faster, I don't know, because it's not like I routed it out or anything like that. There's a lot of tight jumps in the sense you have to like damage boost specifically, because in Chippendale, if you get hit, you boost backwards or forwards depending on where you're getting hit. But you cover a little bit of distance, so it's not like you can recoil immediately backwards like some games. You can actually turn around within like a 2-frame window, and then you can boost forwards. So there's a lot of damage boosts that are like specifically over a pit. There's like one point where there's a dog walking off a power pole, and as he's falling, you can jump off another power pole, and like boost off of him in the air and then wind up on the other side. So it's very strict kind of stuff like that, but I feel like none of it is too insane. Like it's not like straight up like Panga kind of Kaizo levels or anything like that. But it's like stuff within the game engine that people, I think, with RDF maybe like sub 10 times do anyway. Like they have the comfort and control in doing it anyway.
well, hell yeah. Well, I hope you can finish it. I don't know. I know I'd love to play it. Now, is that? I mean, I'm a total like I have no idea how that stuff works. Does that involve like programming? I would assume, and are you using like a program to do it?
It's a mixture.
Okay.
I use a hex editor, and it's called Fred, FRHED, or sorry, FRHED. So there is a manual component there, and then there's also kind of like a GUI interface. It's called CAD Editor, CAD. And very luckily, there's some stuff, like I know how to do kind of like ROM hacking in the sense where you have to find offsets for yourself. But in this particular case, somebody was nice enough to arrange all the offsets, make like a graphical user interface. So it's pretty drag and drop. The only thing that you have to use the hex editor for is if, for example, you take like an enemy and you drag him too far away from where he's going to spawn, you need to edit the spawn within the hex editor manually to say like, this is the new offset, this is the new locations where the enemy is supposed to spawn. Otherwise, if you drag him too far away in the actual editor, then it won't spawn at all. It'll just glitch out.
Okay, so this is something that a dummy like me could never do. Okay, got it.
You probably could. You just have to like really rearrange the enemies within a close proximity. As soon as you drag them too far away, it requires manual editing.
Okay.
But even then, it's not that hard to figure out for the most part.
Yeah, well, we'll have to take your word on that, I guess. All right. Well, hell yeah, man. Let's see. And I know this was another thing that Zorilla wanted to make sure to talk with you about is you've done a lot of different events. You had the Chippendale tournament recently, which was so much fun. And were you involved in the Batman event too that was on Speed Gaming as far as organizing or?
Yeah, I completely organized that one.
Nice.
And then Kat and I organized the Chippendale one.
Okay.
And this is quite a few times we worked with Fiesel. Kat and I also hosted like this arcade marathon thing a long time ago.
That was NES arcade ports, right?
Yeah.
I think I remember that one. Okay. It was like 10 games or something.
Yeah, I think it was actually 20 at the time, but there's like partial goals and stuff.
Okay.
It might have been 10, I can't remember anymore. But they were all kind of like black box arcade kind of games. But Fiesel, we've worked with Fiesel quite a few times. Just in general, we've also held our own events and done like things like Tetris Attack tournaments. I held a Batman tournament a long time ago that was just streamed on my own channel. I think I've hosted something like 35 races or something like that too.
Jeez.
So I like the organization. The tech stuff that goes behind that, I really like that, honestly, a lot.
Yeah, no, you do a great job at it. Like I said, I had a really fun time watching your the Chippendale and doing a little bit of commentary for that. You were actually helping us with some of the tech stuff before we got started. We were having some Discord audio issues, so
Yeah.
what a blessing to have you as our first guest.
No, it's fun for sure. I actually legitimately like that stuff.
You got any future plans? Anything you're thinking about cooking up in the near future or down the line?
No, nothing in terms of anything. We hosted like a fake event where we actually accepted like signups, and I think there's like almost 20 people that submitted games, but that was more so just to compile a list to contact people to set up like some kind of like weekend marathon or something like
Are
that.
you serious?
Yeah,
I feel like I saw
think
that.
actually there's a schedule still somewhere, but I mean like we didn't go further than that. But at some point, that's something that her and I would like to check out. And actually hosting like a weekend event or something like that.
Yeah, and on that note, you have a really nice Discord, which you were talking about too. So anybody that has not checked that out and is on Discord, um, really cool for various games. It's a great community place, especially for like Chip and Dale runners. And I think that's a big part of putting on a good event is having a good Discord. Um, do you have any general advice or things that you found out that work well for doing events? Because I'd love to see more from people in the community.
That's a good question. I don't know actually, because I mean I think in some aspect I'm still learning myself there. I wish I knew how to answer that better actually. Apparently after hosting so many, I don't know. That's a good question. But I think like the general things that kind of work are the simplicity. Like we actually held one a long time ago that was Ninja Gaiden 2, and we gave people 2 weeks to learn that. But Ninja Gaiden 2 is a really hard game to learn, and looking back on it, Chip and Dale is a lot easier. It's a lot more accessible.
Oh yeah.
So I think the simplicity in what you offer in terms of either partial goals or like full goals, or again like full-blown tournaments in the game that it's actually being represented, probably is a good focal point to begin with. Games that are obviously popular. You know, we wanted to host a Chip and Dale one, or sorry, not a Chip and Dale, a Cheetah Man 2 one, but that kind of fell apart. Just because Cheetah Man 2 is probably like the most unpopular game possible. So I mean, Dark Alexander was on board. He actually started running it. There was another runner named Magic K1, and he was on board. And then the other people, you know, they couldn't commit or whatever. So there's at least 2 Cheetah Man 2 runners that didn't exist that came from that exist
Nice.
now. But I definitely think obviously like the more obvious thing would be like popular game choices and stuff like that. That helps. Because Batman, we've held a couple obviously that chase for the record. Yeah, represent. There you go. Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say I saw Dark Alexander in here earlier too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, he did a good job in running it, but
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much like the basic answer is just popular stuff. And I think also another thing that we learned is just space it out over time as well.
Sure. Yeah, you don't want to overload people. Now you had did you ever have any blind game races? I saw you talking about that. Did you get any interest in that? Because that's something we've actually considered doing is either blind or pseudo blind races for an event in the future.
Yeah, that's actually where a bulk of like the old races. I haven't hosted one of those in a long time.
Okay.
But like Kat and I have raced stuff blind before. I've held random things for like other people, or I've raced other people with blind games as well, and those are always really fun. I do like those a lot, probably the most.
And have you seen Overswarm's Learn Fast races? I've always enjoyed those.
Yeah, I've seen them a couple of times.
Okay, and I've participated in one or two, I think. So that's an interesting aspect of the event creation too. I guess it kind of depends on your community and the reach as far as how many people you're going to get. But yeah, I think you're right about general rules, just accessibility of the game, popularity of the game. Probably going to be the default.
Yeah, that's I think one of the unfortunate metrics. But I mean, like a lot of people are really willing to jump into like blind stuff that is like completely foreign as well. So it just depends because there's always an event. Like that's the thing if you think about it. Even if you look at your notes and stuff going back like every month to month or whatever, there's pretty much always an event, and then people are going to join the event that they're most interested in. whether it's obviously stuff like hosted through RGL or like other means, but you know, asking a bunch of people always to take time out of their own schedules. Yeah, I mean, I'm grateful for whenever they want to do that, but at the same time, I understand obviously if life gets in the way or other things are more important.
Sure. Right on. Well, Zarilla, unless you have anything else, I figured we'd jump to our viewer questions here. We've pretty much covered everything we
Yeah, let's
wanted
do
to
it.
talk with Dave about. You want to take the first one?
Sure. So this comes in from Substyly. What is-
Pass. Question number 2.
Oh dear. What is your favorite shrimp meal? Now, what could be more friendly than that?
See, like I have shrimp like literally once a year. They are not good. Like they actually suck.
Is that why he's asking you that? Just because he knows you don't
yeah.
like shrimp? Okay.
Yeah, no.
That's a troll.
Yeah, no. Styly's a jerk, dude. But no, I think if I had to pick one, like the only time that I ever really do anything with them is I put them in this jambalaya thing. So it's kind of like this kind of soup thing, and it tastes really good, and it's kind of like basically chili meat shrimp, and I like it in that. But other than that, like the biggest problem I have with shrimp is like they're so overpowering, and no matter what you put them in, it's like you always taste them just by themselves. So that's like one of the few ways that I can eat them and enjoy them, but otherwise, nah, I'm not a big fan of those guys.
A very substantive answer. Appreciate that.
Yeah, see? Styly is an honest guy.
And that's not it.
Um,
He's got more.
That's right. Smiley also asked, how do you play a degenerate character like Seth in...
See, I remember answering him.
In Street Fighter
Um,
4.
I remember answering that one on Twitter. He
You already
asked me
answered
how
that
I
one.
play a degenerate, because that comes from obviously Street Fighter. So I said the pain gets eased when I go 30-0, like chumps like him. So when I'm on a tremendously large win streak, I feel better about being Seth. And luckily there's people like Styly that allow me to go on those win streaks. So it's not as bad as I think it is.
Sorry. Okay. These questions. These are some really solid questions. Reanimation asks, what's the square root of Batman?
Do I say something about cubes there? Because I'm like, I almost feel like that's kind of like their appropriate answer.
Yeah, I wonder if he was expecting a cube answer.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, part of me, I don't even know how to answer that one. Like everything, I honestly feel if you could like mathematically break down Batman, you ever see like that Simpsons episode where Homer's like writing on that chalkboard and then he like goes back and he starts inventing stuff or whatever and just everything explodes? I think that would be very close to Batman if you broke it down in like a mathematical equation. Like everything would just catch fire like as soon as you were done mathematically trying to make sense of it.
Seems legit.
Okay. You want to take the next few?
Yeah, so...
Sorry, I got the giggles with these questions.
Yeah, no problem.
Read them beforehand.
And you might pop in and pop out too, Zerilla. It might get a little funky again. Manix 86 has 8,000 questions for you. So, question number 1 of 8,000, Dave. How did you learn about this podcast, and what made you decide to want to be on this show?
You guys asked,
Right.
I mean, pretty straightforward. I mean, I didn't impose my presence or anything like that. I hope not.
No. Yeah, we wanted you to
I'll
be on here.
I'll pay you the money afterwards to kind of scrub that answer away, but
Oh, will you pay us?
no,
Well,
because I'm the CEO of Tang Games.
Right,
so
exactly.
you actually owe me money back. That's 600,000 or whatever it was. But no, actually, I saw the podcast because you guys tweeted about it. And as I was kind of saying before we went live, I really like the idea of a podcast. Like, I really wish more people within Retro would create things like this, because a long time ago, I actually did create, I think, like 7 podcasts or something myself. But I really like the idea of a podcast. I really like the idea of just in general people doing that within the retro community, about either retro news or like people within the retro community. So I like the idea a lot in my head, and I like supporting that idea a lot. And then obviously it kind of helps that I met you two guys, randomly, and you're pretty good people, so that kind of sealed the deal for me.
Nice. Well, hey, we at least I think you're pretty cool too. I'm sure Zarilla does as well. Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Okay. I appreciate you going on the record, Zarilla. But yeah, what is it? 8-Bit Steve, is that his name? I know he has a podcast that Skunky was on there recently. And of course, Lat Mackey has a Sequence Break. So there's other podcasts out there too. Obviously, we're going to keep trying to get better. But we're having a good time. And thank you for being here too. Another question for Mannix. Is there a plan to make an updated advanced Batman tutorial?
Yes, but that's really daunting. And I don't know the best way to do that, but the current tutorial for Batman is pretty weak. So it was made for a race during the Big 20 number 4 or something like that. So it basically just boils down to like battering everything. But and if you follow it, you probably get like a 13 or 14 minute time or something like that. So it's pretty outdated. I mean, Bad Breaks and Dexter did a good job at the time, but it definitely shows its age for the most part. But Batman is like sorely needed for an advanced tutorial.
Well, he thinks you're the perfect candidate for it, so hopefully you can find time to do that. I know you got a lot on your plate. And then I'll take this question, then I'll let Zarilla finish it up. And I think I kind of asked this too, but just to make sure there's nothing you can think of since we've been talking. Any upcoming speedrun projects?
I put like a little list of goals. I really, again, want to leave kind of like NES speedruns in general. But a lot of my times are really weird because I either have like a really, really competitive time in something, or I learned the game when I was kind of newer. I set an okay competitive time, but I feel it could be way better. So I think before I kind of like leave NES as a console, I want to go back and kind of improve those more garbage times, make them a little bit more competitive, because I really like when people beat my old times. Obviously, it's a really good feeling when you're kind of like a benchmark. So I think I'll improve those.
Yeah.
And then after that, probably again focus on X2 or Celeste or something a little bit more modern.
Cheetahman 3.
Sorry, which?
I said Cheetahman 3. Sorry, just dumb,
Oh.
dumb joke.
No.
Go ahead, Zarilla.
No, thank you.
I mean, one more question. Oh, sorry, guys. Go ahead.
If it exists, I probably would do it anyway, so it's not even a joke, honestly. I would consider it. But as far as I know, luckily it doesn't exist, so.
The next question is, what are your upcoming special events that you're planning on holding or planning on participating in?
I did submit to Mannix's marathon, and you did accept 2 of the runs. So
Pixels for Peace,
that's
yep.
one.
What are you running?
He originally accepted Batman as a solo run, and then out of nowhere, Stans also submitted Batman. So we're actually going to race it, and Stans is just going to wallop me. Like, there's no way that I can beat Stans, I think. We'll still try.
Hey, any given
Something
Sunday.
similar about the Chip and Dale tournament, by the way. So.
Yeah, I guess that's also true. Like, I never expected to beat Andy, and somehow that happened.
Speaking of Chip and Dale, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say the only other thing that I submitted was Hard Mode Bucky, so I really look forward to that one.
Oh, you did. Cool.
Yeah, I look forward to watching those.
Yeah. So another question was, what is more appealing to you? A game that can be learned easily and fast, such as Chip and Dale, or a game that has an extremely high skill cap that requires a ton of time and effort, such as Batman or Zelda 1?
Yeah, 100% skill and effort, and something with an extremely high skill cap. I'm more drawn to, I think, kind of like heavy execution or very like technically demanding runs. For the most part, I don't really have like a personal interest in learning stuff that's like super simple. And even like Chip and Dale is a weird example because I would 100% say out of all the NES stuff that I've ever learned, like that's the easiest speedrun, probably by far. It's very, very easy to kind of like lower your time and learn that one properly, but what's hard is ND's optimization. So best run right now, if everything went absolutely perfect, I could probably get like a 950 or a 951, and then Andy's record is still 948. Like he's still 2 seconds faster, but he's faster because he's just that good and he's put that much optimization into it. So I think that's what kind of draws me to it.
And then the last question that we have comes from Burst Error. It says, what was your favorite world record you've held? And why was it Cheetah Man?
Actually, that's an interesting question too. I would say, I think it's actually Wild Guns. I think it's a toss-up between Wild Guns and Turtles 2. And I think the answer for Turtles 2 would be because that was kind of like the first record that I really kind of pushed myself to get by myself. So like Baze, when Baze and I started running Turtles 2, the old record was 33:17. And then Baze's old record was 28:10. And then I beat it with 28:07. And then that's my current time right now. But a lot of the strats and stuff like that, like we would copy each other, we would figure out new things, but it was not anybody else. Like nobody else ran that game. It was just me and Baze pushing down the Japanese version. So really at the end of the day, like Baze was helping me with strats and stuff like that, but it was me, like it was only me that kind of put it all together. So that was kind of like the first real time that I took a record. But I think the other one is Wild Guns too, because Kat and I completely routed Wild Guns from like the ground up. We looked at the old record and there's a lot of stuff in there that we didn't agree with, and we thought that we could do better, and we did do better, and we ended up taking it. But the dependency again, the synergy, the coordination between like two people, I think that's like that was like the, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just a very cool experience. So
Nice.
Right on. Appreciate that.
yeah,
Well, yeah.
there was a lot of shame with Cheetah Man, unfortunately. So
Yeah. Well, hey, it's a good meme at least. But I'm gonna go ahead.
I actually had fun with Cheetah Man, but
I'm gonna go ahead and declare that at some point this year, I'm gonna give it a playthrough at least, just for you, Dave. And it's
I'm
happening.
sorry ahead of time. It's not good at all. It
For
really
those
isn't.
for those hot jams you were telling me about.
Yeah, it's really terrible. It's not good at all.
And Zorilla is promising as well that he's gonna beat your time in it. So
I
thank
did
you,
not
Zorilla.
say
See, yeah, I believe Stormcrow. I think he's the one telling the truth right now.
In all ways.
Got another stormy gate on minutes.
So yeah, I mean, that's really all we have for tonight. I want to first off, obviously, thank Dave so much for being here, and this was a lot of fun going over so many different things with you. I want to say thanks so much to all the people that were dropping subs and gift subs. Try not to point that out too much, just so we keep the conversation going. And like I said, we're still trying to learn and get better at this, but I hope everybody had a fun time. What about you, Zorilla?
Yeah, thanks everybody who came and spent their evening with us. Appreciate that. So I feel like we've, Stormy and I both felt the support strong since the beginning. So thank you guys.
Yes, thank you. And just make sure, check us out on Discord. We'd love to hear from you as far as keeping track of news, people that you want us to interview. Check us out on Twitter, etc. Obviously, give Junkyard_Dave a follow on Twitch, Twitter, and all that jazz. He's got.
We'll have links to the things we talked about, the various events and whatnot. Those will be with the VOD on YouTube, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So we'll post at least everything we can. Yeah. Sorry, we don't have any cool features, Shar. But if just search for him, Junkyard Dave on Twitter or Twitch, and you'll find him. Dave, any final words from you, good man?
No, thank you guys for having me. This was a good experience. I'm glad to see your podcast grow. So I hope it only goes on the up and up from here.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so
Thanks,
much
Dave.
again, man. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and head off. Everyone, you have a great night, and we'll see you here in about a month. We'll make an announcement as soon as we have that figured out. Peace out.
Cool. Take care, you guys.
Bye.